Oh, hey, everybody. Hi, and welcome. It has been a good week for Save Point streams, I think, anyway, because, uh, I mean, good relatively. I got really sick on Monday and couldn't play Redwall anymore, but
What a
that
good time.
but that meant that we got to play Balatro, which I'm going to be talking
hmm
about later, and
hmm
that's awesome. And then our stream yesterday was super cool. Fox, you didn't get to see that stream at all, right?
No, I have a small child that doesn't allow me to just sit and watch a
That
stream.
check out streams and whatnot. Yeah,
Well, and that I don't allow him to sit and watch a stream either.
right.
Because if I did, he would be down and it would be real bad for him.
But it was with a named Hank Harwell. He is a corps officer with the Salvation Army.
They have ranks? That's like the literal ranks in the Salvation Army?
Yes. And like I knew nothing about the Salvation Army other than, in fact, I just learned a couple of years ago. I'd say probably 5 or 6 years ago, that the Salvation Army was a church, and not just like
Yeah, I've seen that their like Salvation Army like has done services and stuff. Like there's a one in where I lived in college that would do community outreach stuff more than just a store.
yeah. I thought
But
there was.
I didn't know they had ranks though. That's
They're like
kind of funny.
so they're a church that treats themselves almost. I'm not going to say they treat them like military, but they take it that seriously, where you have ranks and promotions and hierarchy. And he was wearing a uniform with epaulets and like whole 9 yards. They are
Hmm.
0% militaristic,
Well,
but
violent, I would assume, is what you mean.
yeah,
Sure.
anything to that nature.
It's the Salvation Army, It's really not about the violence.
Well, and what's really, because his whole thing was,
We all know the Christian Church doesn't have a history of salvation through violence. Nobody has ever
never. That's
never been
ridiculous.
a thing. That's
Who would ever?
crazy.
Why would they ever? But he was saying that they want, like, their whole goal is to be as dedicated as the military is to their thing, to sharing the gospel in an active, loving way, to serve those who need it most, and
Sure.
like they want to take it that seriously. And I'm like, I kind of love that, actually. So it was super cool. It was a really, really great stream. If you didn't see it, I recommend going back and watching the VOD, everybody. But first, let's get into our pre-stream question here. I talked a little bit too much. Pre-stream question. I know, I'm so sorry. A lot of really great shows have been coming out recently. What are you watching? What TV show are you watching that you're really enjoying right now? So it can be anything. So I'll go ahead and I'll start, because again, it's probably 3 or 4. I'm going to talk about 2 of them in the podcast itself.
Yeah, let's get some of them out of the way now.
So one I'm going to say, though, is X-Men 97.
Yeah, that's one that I am thinking about subscribing.
Oh man, it's like
just
it's
for
so
a month,
funny
just to watch it real quick.
because number one, a bunch of people were like, "Ah, they're just gonna make the X-Men woke." First of all,
Have you ever seen the original X-Men?
do you know what the X-Men are? Let's
Yeah,
have a
like
conversation.
X-Men starting in the 1961, I believe.
It is always been a metaphor for racial injustice from the very, very beginning. Like,
it's always been a metaphor for insert discriminated group.
Yeah, because it's
here.
true. In like the early aughts, it became more about LGBTQ stuff, and
Exactly.
like, that was very heavily its implication through everything.
Yes,
like,
it is about a
have
persecuted.
you tried not being a mutant?
Yeah, oh, the very, very on the nose. Yeah, if you didn't. Yes. It's the kind. I mean, this ties right into our topic today, but it's the kind of thing where when you grew up with it, you didn't think a second. You didn't think twice about it. That joke was just a funny joke. And now, when you're older, when you see something, you're like, "Oh, it's woke now," because you didn't reckon. It's like that person on Twitter saying, like, tweeting at Tom Morello saying, "Keep your politics out of Rage Against the Machine." Like, just because you never realized it doesn't mean it wasn't inherently political from the start. Like, anyway,
but
that rant paused.
They are not taking as big of a swing as I think people thought they were. I will just say it really is a true and strong representation of the early one, just with some updated writing. Like the writing is better than it was, and to the point that the most recent episode, I had a wipe a tear from my eye, man. Like
Mm.
it was big and it was powerful, and they're talking about such good things. Again, not shying away from the very clear racial injustice, you know, the discriminated type of thing, but also just about like, hey, what do you do if you're somebody who can't touch other people? Like, what does that
Mm-hmm.
feel like? How do
Mm-hmm.
you handle that? Or, you know, they introduced the Goblin Queen, and so it's
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, what happens if you find out the person you've spent the last year with is not who you thought they were? And you know, just all this. So there's a lot of really, really great themes. Some of the best of X-Men in the comics that are now being brought to the screen in such a great way. It's great. I'm loving it. I really am.
Cool. We've been watching Shogun. I've talked about this before,
Man, I
but
need to watch it.
it just continues to be extremely good. Super high production value, like just really sucks you into the world, and isn't is more than willing to just like there at one point uh the main character, they call him Engine, he has an actual name, but anyway, main character and a couple of the others are like eating, and two of the Japanese characters are eating a certain thing, and the main character, who's a white guy, he's like, let me have some of that, and they're just laughing about it, and then later, like, he actually eats some, and he's like, yeah, pretty good, it tastes like cheese, kind of, this kind of thing. They never explain what it is. They say what it's called, though, and you can look it up, and it's like a fermented, like, soybean kind of thing that
Mm.
apparently is pretty divisive as far as like if you like it or not, and
Oh yeah.
it's like just a fun little thing where like they don't need to say that. Nobody looks at the camera and says, white man, this is this and you wouldn't like it. They just kind of joke about it, and like it's like they're willing to do that with a lot of just cultural stuff,
Mm-hmm.
where you just imply the meaning of it, but you don't actually need to know. It's really more about the context of the situation than the actual specifics behind it. A lot of stuff like that. It's very good. I think we're like 4 episodes from the end.
It's like rabbis in biblical times where they'll tell you like half of a verse and make you like that has a very strong theme, and then encourage you to go look up the rest of it, to go like
Mm,
find out the rest of it. And so that's
mm.
a lot of what rabbis would do at the time, which some people think that's why Jesus said Elo Elo lama sabachthani, what my God, why have you forsaken me, on the cross, because that's Psalm 22, the beginning of
He's
Psalm
referencing a
22.
psalm.
Yeah. So anyway, well, hey, we're going to get to podcasting here in just a second, everybody. We love that you're here. It's awesome. And we want you to be in the chat while we are podcasting. We don't really communicate with the chat, though, because we syndicate this later as a podcast. And if you're somebody listening to a podcast later, then it's not as easy to listen to, obviously. So, but with that being said, still put your comments and everything into the chat, because we come back later and we go through and chat about like that's when we respond to everything that you've written into the chat. And yeah, so we will talk about it later. There's a post show that hopefully both of us, but maybe sometimes just me if Fox's son wakes up, and we'll be doing that stuff afterwards. So yeah, with that being said, hey, are you ready to do a podcast?
I believe so.
You're on the pre-intro today. You got it? You're ready?
Yeah, we're good to go.
Let me stop the music. Hang on. All right, in 3, 2.
Today on the Nerdy Gritty, what is Gamergate 2.0?
One more world disappears inside it. Just another hopeless addict. Well, they make some man instead. If the drums don't get you, the guitars will.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Nerdy Gritty, where we delve deep into the details of pop culture. I am your forced person of color, Dez.
I'm your uglified woman, Fox.
I mean,
I
True?
am identical to every single woman in all video games
Yeah.
today,
Yeah. Oh gosh. Ugh. Man, you
except
you
for the
sh-
ones I find attractive. Those ones are okay.
you showed me that really stupid post that I thought was a joke. Like I thought
You
it was somebody
literally
being
thought it was a
ironic,
joke.
and
Yes, there's so many. There's a lot out there like that right
it was
now.
just a picture of Heavenly Sword from like
Oh
05,
seven.
oh 07, and then a picture
Yeah,
of
the main characters.
Senua
Yeah,
today, and he's like, 2007 and 2024, and you're trying to tell me they don't purposefully make women ugly, and I'm like, that's Melina
there's
Juergens. She's a
there's
real
so
person, you
there's
jerk.
so yes. There's so many things that are so funny about it, but at the same time so sad.
I went
Like,
in. I did the foolish thing and actually went to the Twitter page and
mhm,
looked at it,
mhm, mhm.
but I was actually
It's so
pleasantly
bad.
surprised to see that all of the comments are just dunking on this guy.
Just
Like,
trashing.
I don't know why this person continues to have their account because nobody likes what they're doing. So
Well,
yeah,
r slash Kotaku in action
yeah,
is helpful.
it's
We'll get there. We'll get there.
yeah. Anyways, hey Fox, you have the intro today.
Yeah. Hey, you know what is all the rage these days and actually getting better than ever before? Video game adaptations,
Woo!
movies and TV shows.
Oh yeah.
Like there have been some of the best adaptations of video games ever, including Fallout, which just started, which apparently is just very, very good.
Yeah, they
haven't-
surprise dropped the
yeah.
entire series or the
It's the
entire
whole thing?
season. Yeah,
I think I've come to prefer a weekly thing. Or actually, we don't even care if it gets released all at once. We will just watch it weekly anyway, just because I'd like to slow drip it and not binge. But anyway, there's a lot of good stuff. And you know what also is the rage right now? Final Fantasy VII.
oh yeah.
There have been Final Fantasy VII movies, or at least one, but it was animated. What we need to do today to get ahead of the curve, and to make sure that they give us the credit when it comes true,
Right.
is cast the inevitable live action Final Fantasy VII, probably 6 different movies about the whole thing, so they get every single element in there. And
I don't. Here's. I mean, we're gonna do this anyway, but I want to talk about this. I don't think they could do that and make it good.
no,
Part of what makes Final Fantasy so delightful is how seriously they take Cloud, and then in like such ridiculous situations they put this very serious character in. Like it's this delightful comedy of it that is just so playful, but you can't communicate that if you are not actively doing it.
no, I think it would work really well as an anime. I'm surprised there hasn't been a Final Fantasy VII anime adaptation, actually. Like, I feel like that could work really well.
Well, and then there's like Advent Children, which is 0% playful and goofy.
It's
like,
100%
definitely-
serious.
Yeah. But
I mean, it's still goofy in like the situational.
And the fact that
some of it's
yeah.
situational, but it's not trying to be funny.
anyway.
But anyway, yeah. Well, okay, so let's cast the characters of Final Fantasy VII : the movie.
I mean, when I was thinking of this, and I thought, all right, who would be good in which roles? The one that stood out to me that was like, heck yes, was Willem Dafoe as Sid.
Yeah,
This gruff, grizzled old man with a rough voice that's absolutely willing to look at you and tell you how stupid you are.
Yeah, no, that could work really well.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe as Sid makes a lot of sense to me. That's a good one.
When I thought of that, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, why not? Why isn't that a thing?
Now this movie needs to happen just so we can
Let's
have
just make a
Willem
movie
Dafoe
about
as
Sid. Who cares about everybody else?
A Final Fantasy movie about Sid would have to be a multi-universe Doctor Who type.
Oh yeah, all the Sid.
Because it's all the Sids, like all the Sids coming together.
Yeah, that would.
Sid.
Oh, it'd be terrible. But yeah, let's do that. Okay. You started with a later character.
Yeah.
Let's start with Cloud. Who's Cloud? I've got a suggestion.
Okay, because I struggled with this one. I struggled because it's got to be somebody younger. Technically, Cloud is like 20.
17, 16?
No, he's like 20. He's
20.
away
Okay,
he went away when he was 16, and he was
that's
gone
true.
for a couple of
I remember the
years.
flashback was when he was 16, telling
Right.
Tifa he's
So
gonna
he's
leave. Yeah,
like
okay,
19 or 20 years old.
something like that. Yes.
But he also has to be a believable man who's seen some stuff,
Yeah, he's matured beyond his years
Right.
a little.
So
Yeah.
I struggle with this. Who do you have? Who do you have?
I think right now, it'd be Austin Butler.
Austin,
Which-
I'll have to look that up.
Austin Butler was Elvis in the Elvis biopic. More recently, he was Fade Routha in Dune Part
that's
2.
Good. Yeah.
But he's like got the chiseled jaw, like smoldering eyes, like could look like him, but also is very good at playing the serious role. He's going to be in a movie called The Bike Riders coming out this summer, which I think looks really good, but also is a very funny title for a biker gang movie. It's just called The Bike Riders, which I think is very funny. But anyway, I think that would be probably the best choice to be Cloud right now.
Well, mine was Taron Egerton.
But also, I don't know a lot about a lot of younger actors right now. Taron. Yes.
Taron
Okay.
Egerton.
All right.
Yeah.
Yep.
He looks a little older still. He's
Yeah.
getting the lines and whatnot. So I don't know.
They're
if he
getting
could
older.
Successful. Yeah. I mean, that's what time.
That's how time do it.
But I think that he would do a really good job of being able to be that aloof, stone-faced type character. So yeah,
Mhm.
that's my casting for Cloud.
Sure. I think those are both good, solid
Yeah,
choices.
I agree. Your guy,
All right.
I didn't recognize him, but looking at pictures, yeah, absolutely yes.
The funniest thing I've heard about what's his name, Austin Butler, is this guy he apparently he's a pretty strong method actor. Like he was Elvis for a while, and so then he plays Fade Routha in Dune Part 2, a psychopathic murderer.
Oh boy.
And there's like an interview with the director, what's his name, Denis Villeneuve, who's just like, yeah, we had a conversation, and he brought it down to like 20-30% because I didn't want him to murder Timothy Chalamet on set. It's very funny. All right, who's next? Who we going with next?
Well, Barrett and Tifa are the next ones to be
Antifa's in this game. Talk about woke.
What?
I mean,
no.
You said Antifa.
Oh, Antifa. Got it. Antifa.
I mean, they are Antifa. Like they are
really
anti-fascist.
super are.
The main, I mean, that's the very funny part about it. It is a very quote unquote woke game. It's anti-fascist, corporate, pro-environmental spirit. Anyway, who plays Barrett? Who's Barrett?
So Barrett is a little bit older than most of them, but still not an old man. What I was really trying to think is who is a very large black actor who could take on that role. And I think today, if he bulked up a little bit and grew a beard, you could get John Boyega in then.
John Boyega would be fun. Unfortunately, it wouldn't work now because I don't think his career is going to go anywhere now. But Jonathan Majors, I think, would have been a really good choice.
Oh yeah,
because he's we've seen him in Creed mode, and he's just an absolute Hulk. But
seeing John Boyega in They Clone Tyrone is like that would be a great Barrett in that.
That was a great movie.
That was a good movie, man. I really like They Clone Tyrone.
Yeah.
So I got that. That's my brain in it. He definitely doesn't look as hard as Barrett, but
that's what makeup's for.
And Barrett is heavy comedy. Like, yeah.
If they can,
let's finish with Tifa. I think we can't cast everybody. I don't think we have time to cast everybody.
There's 1,000 characters in this game. So.
Right. So as for Tifa, the obvious answer is Rachel Lee Cook reprising her role as Tifa Lockhart. She voiced her for years. How dare you? How dare you replace her?
She's pretty young looking still. I think it'll work.
She is pretty ageless. No, she's definitely not the right one for that. Tifa's so difficult to cast because she is supposed to be this dainty looking person that is incredibly like thin and, traditionally beautiful, but also completely whips face. Like she will
just punch you right
so
in your
hard.
It just destroy you.
Yes, absolutely. So So
Yeah, the best one I came up with is Brenda Song. Brenda Song is most famous for being in Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, that show on the Disney Channel. But she's been in a increasingly more right now. She was in she's the voice of um, the princess in Blue Eye Samurai. I forget her name.
Yeah.
No, I think she'd really, but she's got that, like, she can do that, like, edgy and also like fun, girl next door kind of thing, like combo that Tifa kind of embodies. That's been the best choice I've thought of.
That's a great casting. No, I'll back yours because I couldn't think of anybody better. So I mean, that's not true. I thought of better people minus like 20 years. So like
Rachel Lee Cook,
Michelle Yeoh was my actual, like, if this was 20 years ago, I would want Michelle Yeoh in that.
Sure, role. Yes,
heck yes. Like,
we're filming a movie before the actual game came out, then right? Maybe
exactly that. All right, hey, we need to move on and talk about other things. Fox, what's been going on in the world of news, my friend?
Hey, big news! Baldur's Gate 3 has become the first game to win every major Game of the Year award.
Really? It won
every
all of them?
Yes. Let me go through the major one. Obviously, it's a subjective term.
Right.
There's a billion Game of the Years out there. Every single publication has one. But the big ones are, according by this article, the Golden Joystick Awards. Then you have the Game Awards. Then you have the DICE Awards, the Game Developer Choice Awards, and then the last one was the BAFTAs.
Mm-hmm.
The British. What are the BAFTAs? I forget that is, but it has now won all 5 Game of the Year from there, which now makes it objectively better than Elden Ring, because Elden Ring lost the BAFTA.
Here's what I'll say.
This is as objective as it gets. There's no subjectivity in game reviewing or awards.
Baldur's Gate did something that no other games have done before. It is incredible. It does wonderful, wonderful things. I am struggling with how buggy it is. At least
you've experienced PS5, a way more buggy version than I have.
I have begun to have to save scum every 5 minutes probably, because I will get a lot of game breaking bugs or things like that'll just happen where sucks. I just had one where I was having an important dialogue with Will and there was no dialogue. It was just panning back and forth to characters and they're going,
oh, just no audio. Okay.
But there's music playing and you can hear like the sound effects and things like that. But
they're working on their miming skills.
No voices at all. And so I had to reload so I could, hear the important conversation.
To know what is being said. Yes. So, you know what the funniest part is? It has beaten Elden Ring. Elden Ring won all 4 of the others, but not the BAFTAs. Which game do you think Elden Ring lost the Game of the Year in the BAFTAs to?
Elden Ring, the big one was God of War.
2 years ago.
Was God of War Ragnarok?
No, I'm sorry. Vampire Survivors.
What?
That is a very good game. It is a very funny game to put up next to Elden Ring. Just not in quality comparison, but in just like size and scope and like tone.
I mean, talk about comparing apples to oranges. That's like comparing a smorgasbord of fruit to some really good cherries, man.
I got you. Good. I bought you some, very fresh grapes from the grocery store.
That's bonkers.
Anyway, congrats to Baldur's Gate. That's impressive.
Speaking of things that lost to Baldur's Gate for Game of the Year, Nintendo says Tears of the Kingdom was pirated 1 million times.
Wow.
Pre-release.
Wow.
In a lawsuit against an emulator creator. So this is an older article. This is from March 20th, so a few weeks ago. But it is an IGN article talking about how Yuzu is an emulator program and that they allowed around 1 million downloads of Tears of the Kingdom before it was released. And Nintendo has finally said, No,
Yeah.
this needs
They're
to stop.
nuking the Discord and everything. Like,
Yes. And here's what's weird to me. How do emulators not all get sued and put away forever? Like, we can talk about the ethics of emulation, and especially if you're in countries that have banned games and all this other stuff, or blah, blah, blah. We can talk, but forget about that for a second. Let's just set all that aside for a second. How do, the moment Nintendo sees emulator exist, how is it not immediately done?
I think the reason is that it's not illegal to own something that has the capability of playing your game. It's illegal to have a copy of that game that wasn't paid for. So maybe a comparison would be like if I made my own very very similar Walkman in the 90s. You know, if I'm not trying to sell it or anything, I just built something that looks like a Walkman. There's nothing technically wrong with that. It's just a piece of technology that does the same thing. But the minute I buy or pirate the latest Foo Fighters album,
Right.
And that's the illegal part. That thing has been sold for, that's the comparison I can come up with, is that the emulator only has the capability to aid in something illegal. It in itself is not doing anything unless it is doing that thing.
It's essentially saying, hey, I have a business that will discreetly deliver any type of medication to you. And that's how you advertise it, and that's what it is. And for the most part, I'm picking up your meds from Walgreens, and I'm bringing you some ibuprofen.
Only if you're stealing those things.
No. But
what do you think a drug dealer is?
No, but that's my point. Is all of that is legal. Everything I've said so far is legal. But the moment it becomes illegal drugs, that it's the object that is being downloaded, not the way it is being downloaded. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, okay. A car isn't illegal to own, but it becomes a problem when it's being used to transport drugs across state lines.
Yeah.
It's not, the car is fine. The car is not the problem. Obviously, you don't also, the car is not the illegal. So an emulator has the capability of doing something illegal, but only until it is used for that illegal action. Then is it a problem? Because that's my understanding. I am in no way an expert on this.
The reason I use the metaphor I use, though, is because I feel like people who exclusively use emulators so they can play games that are no longer sold or in a completely legal way has to be like a 3%, right? Like the vast majority of people who are using emulators, I'm guessing, are using it illegally in some way. Because even if it's Nintendo games that are not sold anymore, Nintendo still does not want you emulating that. Like they have made that very, very clear.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And so, yeah. Anyway, it's just wild that emulators get away with these things. To me, again, this is not me saying emulating is bad. That's an entire ethical question that could be an entire podcast of its own. Yeah. This is me saying it's wild to me that Yuzu got away with it for this long. That it took a million downloads of Tears of the Kingdom for this to actually happen.
I mean, you also just it was illegal the whole time. I think Nintendo is let's just wait until they've really just done it to themselves. Let's just wait until we can go to court and annihilate them from existence and demonstrate the exact monetary value of what potentially we lost because of this or didn't gain.
All right. Hey, should we get down to the nerdy gritty?
Let's do it.
By the way, this is just something a little bit on the side here. I have I'm finally gonna. It occurred to me that we should have a little segment in the middle here, and I'm gonna. I'm gonna have a video that is me just saying, "Hey, this is Save Point Ministries. Here's what we do," and
that's a good idea.
That would be our little break in the middle there, So anyway,
a little ad break, yeah.
So anyway, hey, now it's time to get down to the nerdy gritty, which means we're gonna talk about Gamergate 2.0.
We are.
Which is
a thing. It's a whole thing. Okay, I know how to start us off here.
Yes, please.
Let's talk about the concept of Gamergate.
Yes, the beginning.
So it's been a good 10 years now, I'd say, since Gamergate, 9 or 10 years.
If not, yeah.
Gamergate was an organized campaign of harassment that took place on the internet, largely against, in broad scopes, women in general.
I do want to be fair. I want to be fair and
let's be fair
and say that those who really, really supported it would say it was not a campaign of harassment. There were outliers who did the harassing. They wanted unbiased journalism, is what they were.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm going to explain to you why that's bullcrap.
It is. Let me be. Oh, it okay. Is a load, but I do want to make sure that we are saying that people would say the opposite. Yeah.
What it was in reality, what it turned out to be in practical terms, was a organized campaign of harassment against women in general, and very specifically some specific women in the video game industry.
Right.
We don't need to get into specifics where this isn't the main topic. You can get into that if you just go look it up. There's plenty of videos to explain all the details of this. Essentially, what the idea was is that there was a perceived corruption of the purity of the video game industry, the video game development process, by people who were not supposed to be there, namely not men, not white men, basically.
Yeah.
Largely women were not supposed to be there. There was the what's her name? Anita Sarkeesian that's a specific name. She didn't fuel a lot of it. She was a target of this because she had a video series about tropes versus women in video games, where she talked about damsels in distress and how,
which was a great series.
Excellent, yeah, wonderful. Very early on, like really good, like early on video essays. When it's very common today, but she was kind of a pioneer in that realm.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff, but she was claiming that video games were hostile toward women in the ways they were depicted in the large majority. There's always good examples.
And again, if you were to go back and look today, it's so obvious. Like, it's so clear the way that women were objectified and targeted in so many different ways. But at the time, so many people did not want to admit that.
The whole ethics in journalism thing stemmed from a blog post posted by some guy. I don't know. I don't remember his name. I don't care. Claiming that another person who I think goes by they them pronouns now, at the time was not, if I'm not mistaken. Doesn't matter. They were dating, and this person posted the guy posted claiming that his previous partner had slept with people in the video game industry in order to secure positive reviews of her game.
Right.
Their game. Looking back, those reviews don't exist. Like, it's stemming. This is why I say that the ethics in journalism thing is nothing.
Right.
Is that literally the review that is supposed to have been the catalyzing event doesn't even exist. It never did. It was a Kotaku article that apparently existed because only and was positive. Never even existed. So it's a whole thing.
And to be fair,
yes, please.
And again, this is being fair. There were literally people within the Gamergate camp saying that women do not belong in video game industry, and that was an actual thing they were saying. It sounds ridiculous to think that no group of humans is actually going to say that out loud. No, a good chunk of them were legitimately saying that.
It's less ridiculous if you look at the internet still. That still exists. It never went away, but it was, it has died down to a certain extent. Fun fact, not so fun actually. Do you want to guess? I don't know if you know this. The person who actually coined the hashtag Gamergate tag on Twitter. Do you know who it was?
I want to say it's somebody really really out there, dang it. Oh, who was it? You're going to say it, and I'm yeah, I remember.
This makes me very sad.
I want to say
Adam Baldwin.
Yes. Yeah.
Jane from Firefly.
Yes.
Makes me very sad because I love Jane and love Firefly. But he was the one who originally started that in a negative way. It was not just him saying, "Oh, we could call it this." It was he was a supporter of the harassment, essentially.
Yes.
So all that to say is that was Gamergate. There's a lot of conspiracies out there. There's a lot of ways you can say that it even supported just right-wing, alt-right politics as a whole and all this. we're not going to focus on that. What we want to talk about today is what is colloquially being called Gamergate 2, Gamergate 2.0, where a very similar but slightly altered version of that same kind of harassment campaign has come back with a vengeance in recent months.
It's wild how
yes.
similar it is in a lot of different ways. And
Yeah.
just how, like, the way that, and this is true for the internet and humans on the internet in general, but somebody will say something false, objectively false, and then other people will support that objectively false statement. And then it will become something that is believed so deeply that when other people come out and say, hey, you're talking about me, I want to say what you are saying is false. This is not true. I am that person. This is not true. They still will not believe you. Like
the story, the narrative becomes stronger than the actual fact.
Yes, it's so wild to me.
Yes, it's very frustrating.
You want to go into what's going on here?
Yeah, so once you go into Gamergate 2.0 and what the kind of new focus is.
So within recent years, there has obviously been a push for equality within video games, I guess is a simple way to put that.
DEI is a very volatile term, but I think is appropriate to use here.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion is DEI.
Yes.
And the whole idea is to find people groups who have been severely underrepresented and to represent them. To say, hey,
intentional about it.
Yeah, and to basically say, hey, there's no reason why this character cannot represent this people group, and so we're going to do that. So
and that's behind and in front of, or I guess not camera, but like in development and in the actual games themselves.
Yes. It's for the human beings and the characters within the games they're creating. Well, an organization named Sweet Baby Incorporated has
great name.
Yeah. Sweet Baby Inc., their whole thing is just to be an outside DEI consultant organization specifically for video games. If you go to them and say, can you please help us, they will go in and they will help you develop characters for your game that are diverse and equal and included, so.
Yeah. Even more than that, not just like they are not DEI specific. They will just go in and like, hey, here's the dialogue from our game, and they will go through it and just say, oh, we found an internal contradiction in these little, side characters saying things. You might want to fix that. Or just general consultation on your game to provide help. Because when a game produces a whole lot of dialogue and you have 3 people doing it, you might want somebody else to take a look at it from an outside perspective.
Well, I couldn't say who. I will say the internet found out about Sweet Baby Inc.
The internet TM.
Yes. And linked them to several games, big, like large popular games that people have also been claiming are quote unquote woke. So this is like God of War Ragnarok, Alan Wake. I was going to say Adam Wake.
Alan Wake is a big one. Helldivers is a very current one.
Helldivers.
That's a whole thing in and of itself. It's very funny.
It's so ironic.
And again, very sad.
Yes. And these people have now begun a campaign of harassment, beginning specifically toward Sweet Baby Inc. and then just going across, claiming that Sweet Baby Inc. is, I guess, forcing themselves. They are like in some way.
They are the insidious ones forcing games to become what they would determine to be woke in a derogatory way.
Right. So I guess really what it is they say that the big wigs want their game to be woke, so they hire Sweet Baby Inc. and all the writers and developers hate it, and they're just like, oh no, Sweet Baby Inc. is coming in and forcing us to do all of these things. Now, again, I want to be clear before. These Sony Santa Monica, I can't remember who made Alan Wake, but like these
It'd be Remedy
Drive, yeah, thank you, have come out and said, no, we chose, we like this, man, like we wanted this. In fact, Remedy had said specifically, we would have made Saga who she is with or without, like she was this character before Sweet Baby Inc. came in. They just helped us flesh her out more.
Right.
But of course, that doesn't matter. People want to believe.
Oh yeah, whatever people say, if it's against the narrative you're trying to push, it is irrelevant. Even if it is the primary source where this thing would contradict, it's irrelevant.
Now, I did a wild thing.
Okay.
I went in and I did I'm not going to say a deep dive, but I went to a dive into the Gamergate 2 Reddit. And
oh no.
and
did you how much time did you spend on Kotaku in action? Oh no.
Well, okay.
Can hurt your soul.
What is Kotaku?
Kotaku is a news.
I know what Kotaku is, but what are you talking about? Kotaku in action or whatever.
Kotaku in action is a subreddit which essentially it literally brands itself as the center for Gamergate. It still is called that. And it's essentially just a subreddit dedicated to rooting out and finding all the ways video games are becoming woke. It is the thing we are talking about today. It is the crystallization of Gamergate culture, of finding all the games that are woke and talking about how women are all being made ugly on purpose and all these things. It is a terrible, terrible subreddit, and it is hard to read, both because it makes you very sad, and it's so funny. It's hard to take seriously.
Now, is Kotaku, do they support this? Is Kotaku...
Well, Kotaku was the site of the original, where that review that was supposed to be, and then they came out, the CEO or the editor-in-chief or whatever of Kotaku said, no, that wasn't a thing. What are you talking about? And then Kotaku, like Polygon, is also considered to be, I would say, rightfully so, correctly so, kind of on the left-leaning way that they will portray things.
That's what I thought.
And so because of that, anytime a video game is woke, it is Kotaku in action. It is their politics in action. This is what we see happening because of the liberalization of video games.
The subreddit I got into was one that was just titled Gamergate 2.0.
Oh, well, there you go.
And so
not hard to find.
I'm reading through, and again, this is genuinely as fair as I can be.
Yes.
To subtract, I'm trying to be so kind here, I really am, to subtract the clear misogyny and
racism
and bigotry,
and
to try and get to the heart of what was going on. What it seemed was people who have been represented in video games for a really long time, people who have been given what they want for a really, really long time. It's now being, and let's be real, that is being taken away from them.
I would disagree that it's being taken away. I would say that others are being given more.
I guess that's true. There's
still plenty of straight white men in the video games.
It is, if you take it by percentage, then if you were to take it by ratios.
I don't know the numbers, but yes, there is probably in comparison to what the ratio is much more in the favor or higher in the favor of non-white straight men now.
Right. And so whether or not it should be taken from them as a conversation we're going to have. Yes, it should. But that's where they are coming from in this, just seeing these people come and have this conversation of this nostalgia and looking back and being like, why can't it just be what it used to be? This is what I was used to. Now, when I play a video game, they almost have this mindset of what many of us, people of color or women or whatever else had before, of why am I not represented in video games the way I want to be?
That's the ironic part of it, isn't it?
Right. And it really is. And so, but the problem is the way that they want to be represented in video games is the dominant. We want to be the
only.
And so it just, and it plays into this cultural mindset of, hey, cops should be white men.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, look, this person's a cop, then they should be white men. Why? Because that's what it is, man. That's the way cops are.
That's how it's been.
Yeah.
And so why shouldn't it change? Why should it change?
And so when it comes to actual defensible things, it's not there.
Mm-hmm.
But to try and be as understanding and compassionate as possible What it comes down to is people who had excess, and now that is being taken from them, and they are now seeing the video game industry not what they know it as, not as familiar, not as comfortable as it was. They are now uncomfortable in this space because they are not represented to the extent that they want to be. That's what's going on. The
Yes.
brutal irony of this is that, hey, that's what we have been for so
It is
long.
the exact same problem that everybody, other groups have been experiencing.
Yes. So, okay. We have spent so much time kind of talking about the outskirts of this and getting into like the details of what exactly is happening here. But overall, let's actually get into what do we think about this personally? How do we think it's going to play out? What can we do about this, et cetera, et cetera. So tossing it over to you, Fox, just your general thoughts on this. I don't think people are going to be shocked to hear our thoughts because we've been giving most of them already. But
I think they're perfectly right and being
sense,
true.
Right? Yeah.
Me as a white man, I'm being oppressed because I am not in every single role in every single video game.
Actually, I think this is an interesting thing that we can ask you. How do you
Finally, somebody asked the white man.
How do you feel like what? Because I mean, they are right. The cis white man is represented less often in video games now. Is that weird to you? Do you notice it? Is that anything to you? And when I say less, I mean instead of 99%, now it's like 50%.
Yes, there are less games that, yes, there are. Again, I don't think less is the best way to put it. I think it's that other people have more.
Yeah.
And so you're only being oppressed in comparison.
Right.
Like, they complain about Alan Wake 2, but the game is named after the straight white man. It's not called Saga whatever.
It's named after spooky Keanu Reeves. He's right there.
Who's a literal, there's a literal self-insert of the white man developer of it.
Yes.
Anyway, I was going to say I don't care. I really do. I loved it. I am more than willing to play. There was Tchia that came out. Let's use an example. Yeah. Tchia. I forget what the actual island nation that it was based on was, but it was a very specific cultural game that could not be made unless somebody really could not be made truthfully unless somebody from that island decided we're going to make a game about where we live. And it was great. I learned something, and even if I didn't care at all about the context or the setting, it was a fun game. At the very least, it mattered. It has no impact if I don't want it to. That is the frustrating part about this, is that playing. Oh man, I don't know if you're aware that one of there are big elements of Sweet Baby 2.0 or no, not Sweet Baby, but
Sweet Baby
Gamergate
2.0.
Sweet Baby 2.0. That Gamergate 2.0. That part of what is happening apparently is the intentional uglification of women in video games. That they are made to be ugly intentionally to do something to bring down Western culture. I don't know, something like that. It's why Stellar Blade obviously is the greatest game of all time, because it has a person I find attractive. Anyway.
No, that's why Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball is the greatest game of all time.
Right, exactly. No, there will be people on the internet who said what you just said, but unironically.
Yes.
It's very, I mean, we okay, hold on, pause. We should be very clear. This is a very small subset of the internet. Obviously, it's hard to quantify how many people are going to have this meaning, and obviously bigotry is a real big problem in the general culture.
Yeah.
But as far as what we're talking about here, this specific Gamergate 2.0 thing, it's not everybody on the internet. We don't want to vilify the whole. It's probably a pretty small minority of the gaming community, but it has the impact to it can have an impact on younger people who are on the internet all the time and seeing things. So I think it is important to talk about anyway. Okay, back into the thing. I as a white man whose opinion obviously is more important than others, don't, at the very least, it has no impact. Somebody being not white, like, there are plenty of games where it is a non-white person and that doesn't affect the game at all. And at the most, sometimes it actually does genuinely affect the game, and it'd be weird if they weren't. Like that if you are creating a game in a specific culture in a specific place with a specific story, then there are things that should be that should reflect that culture. And so it's just very, I'm going to keep saying this, but it's funny and sad to me the whole time, because it's hilarious, the naivete and real lack of media literacy, but also sad because even that they're not willing to be curious. Somebody is willing to just say, I'm being oppressed.
What the problem I see with all of this is not Gamergate 2.0 itself. I think this is a loud minority, as you were saying before. Once again, ironic that they're the minority. This is a
well, they're being oppressed.
Yeah. This is just a very loud minority that is so easily proven wrong that if somebody's on the fence, you can just point at something and they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, got it. Never mind.
Oh,
Never
right.
mind. Yeah. So you have to be I want to use kind words here, like Christ-like, like not cruel words here. So you have to be ready to accept this. You have to want to accept this already for you to not think that otherwise.
You got to be primed to be there. Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just the people who were probably Gamergate 1.0 just speaking up again.
Oh, it's just a continuation.
Right.
The concept and community of Gamergate has never fully gone away.
Right.
It didn't end in 2017 and now they're back because there's a new problem. It's just people have complained forever about these kinds of things. I'm sure they've complained for literally since the dawn of video games about certain cultural depictions and things like that.
Here is the sad part for me and the actual impact I think it will have, because this was very true with Gamergate 1.0, was people who are outside of the video game culture will point at this and say, this is what gamers are like. This is what video gamers are like, are these guys. When there are so many people out there who are like you and I, just people who love and are passionate about video games and are very familiar with the culture and everything, and think this is ridiculous and stupid. In fact, the majority of us are likely this way, but this is the stereotype. This is the stereotype that people have of video gamers as angry, man-childs that are in their mom's basement shouting out against women in video games, rah! And they're playing into this stereotype so perfectly that now other people can point at it and say, see, I told you. That's what video gamers are like.
That's what they're like.
That's gamers. And then the rest of us are once again put into the outcast or, into the fringe because of this.
There is a similar, I mean, they're not exactly the same, but it's a similar thing to like the evangelical concept in Christianity, where it's just, there is a actually real extant subset of the culture that is depicted in a certain way, and part of the problem is that depiction is, I'm going to talk about gamers specifically and about this thing specifically, these people, and not fully look at the culture. Like, I'm not going, that's the real problem, is a story. If you're going to write a story to talk about somebody who just likes playing video games and isn't a bigot or just one of these always online chuds, that's not interesting. A lot. I mean, there's a million things that we could talk about that are tied in. Internet outrage gains clicks, clicks gains. Ad sales gains revenue. Revenue just is the ultimate purpose of a lot of publications. So it just kind of creates this cycle of, let's find the thing that gains outrage. And so if you have a bunch of articles about gamers in this version of the game, in the Gamergate, and that's all you write about because that's what's bringing in then that's all people see who are not part of the actual culture. And so this one little thing is a really good example of a lot of problems. Even in just internet culture and rage bait and all that kind of stuff. Can we talk about some of the like what I think is maybe the best, like the good news in this whole thing?
Yeah.
It's not going to matter.
No.
In the
if
long
anything, this has elevated Sweet Baby Inc.'s name to such a massive, like, worldwide note. I had no
Right.
clue who Sweet Baby Inc. was.
Right,
Now I'm
no,
like,
no.
oh, these guys are cool. I like this. Like,
Yeah, that's great. That sounds cool. Or at the very least, whatever. Like,
yeah.
I wouldn't have known about it, and so I'm like, yes, it's not in as far as the like future of the video game industry goes. It's not going to matter. It's a lot of rage signifying nothing.
Yeah.
It will ultimately there are no video game companies out there saying, well, these people said this, so I need to make my female character look like this. At least I'd very much doubt that. There might be people saying, well, I want to make my own video game where women look like this because of this problem. Sure, you're perfectly fine to do that thing. I don't care.
Yeah.
But I also don't think, Stellar Blade, whoever is making Stellar Blade, said, well, all the women in video games are ugly, so I'm going to make my own attractive person. That probably wasn't the thought. You can hear my phone right now.
Your spaceship is calling you.
Yep. I'm gonna mute myself real quick.
Yeah, that's fine. You mute yourself.
Yep.
I'm gonna keep talking. So,
Yeah, you do. I'm gonna turn off.
Yeah. So I genuinely. Oh, it's turning his camera off too. So you guys are seeing me and hey. For those of you who are watching the stream, hey, what do you think, me? Well, me. Oh no, I can just keep talking this way because both we're mirrored into each other. But no. So legitimately, I wholeheartedly agree that this is not going to matter in the long run as far as the impact of diversity in video games, which I obviously, as a person of color, I think is a very, very good thing. Like seeing games in which people who look like me are more represented, or even just really simple things. This is something that a lot of people don't recognize. Not people of color don't recognize, is finding hair on a character that looks like mine is something that has only really been coming out like the last 5 years. And it's so cool. It's such a random thing just to be going, like, for that to be the thing. Did you hear any of this at all?
No.
Okay. I was just talking about how none of this is really going to matter. Diversity is going to continue, which is a good thing. I was saying that I personally like simple things like games never had my hair in it. Mm-hmm. And that was just something like, so it seems so trivial and small, but then a few years ago to come through with the character creator and be like, this is my hair. I can actually make it look like me now. So cool. Like, it's so cool to be able to have that. And it's good. It's good to be able to have that inclusion and to have people be able to be represented in this way. So it is good. It's objectively good. So it's going to continue.
Ultimately, yeah, there's a lot of irony here. A lot of it is like, it's the whole idea of like nobody is being, to make a comparison in like politics, when we give equality to people of other genders or sexualities, nobody is being oppressed in that situation. It is simply a situation where one person is here, one person is here. Now they're being raised here. They're the same. This person was not lowered. This person's situation did not change at all. They are still free to do whatever they want. Video games are still more than welcome to have straight white men in them, or traditionally attractive women, whatever you consider that to be. Nobody is going to say you can't have that. Do you remember a couple of years ago when Resident Evil Village came out? What was the reaction to Lady D?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was not, oh, look at this traditionally attractive woman, let's destroy this game. It was, step on me. Yeah. Like, there was nobody, like, it was just a standard thing. Like, people are more than okay with attractive people in whatever. I keep saying attractive, like, it's such a subjective term.
Right.
That... Like, a lot of this just comes down, to I didn't find somebody attractive, and therefore all of video games are woke. Yeah. Like, okay, then find another game that you find it. Like, it's fine. Yeah. You don't have. Also, does the attractiveness of the person actually matter? Does Aloy have to be attractive for you to like Horizon? If she does, that's weird.
That's real weird,
That's a weird thing to do, because the game is about shooting robot dinosaurs. It's not about dating Aloy, Like, it's such a weird choice, like a weird situation. Abby is not as attractive as you want her to be. Is that relevant to the game? No. In fact, the whole game is kind of about killing her. So
Senua isn't as attractive as I want her to be. Yeah, she's a mentally troubled Gaelic barbarian
carrying around the head of her dead boyfriend.
What do you want?
It's so weird.
And also, Millennia Jurgens is beautiful. You jerk! How dare you?
Just, at the end of the day, like that's the problem when we talk about this. We cannot fall into the trap of trying to say like, yes, she is attractive, or there's this attractive person. So you're no. That's a false equivalency. The issue is not whether or not people are attractive. The issue is who cares? Like, what is that? What's the point of what you're talking about? It's irrelevant. It's just trying like it's so don't try to like. It's like, women can't be funny. Well, let's point at these people who are funny and women. No. The premise itself is flawed. Right. So trying to attack the premise, or the example of the premise, whatever, is just the wrong way to go about your argument. The premise is flawed. It's starting on the wrong foot, so don't go down that path. Okay. And so it's all.
I could long enough.
I could rant for 3 more hours if you wanted me to.
But Fox, in this incredible but sad story about mental illness in a time when it was perceived as witchcraft and going through a fantasy world but not sure if this world is real or not because the character you were portraying is also not sure if this is real or not. I also need her to be super hot. Like
her boobs aren't big enough. So 0 out of 10 woke station 5.
Okay.
I hate it.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. What have you been up to, Fox? We need to talk.
Oh,
we
man.
Podcasted
let's move on this. If you can't tell, this is where we don't agree with this, and it's stupid.
Yes.
Let's move on. Hey, I've been playing. I actually been doing a really weird thing for me, and that's just kind of installing a game that catches my fancy, and just like playing it and seeing if I like it. Whereas in the past, I will play a game and then until I even hate it, but want to get the platinum trophy, and then just be frustrated even if I love the game. I decided I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to play a bunch of games find some new stuff. I'm playing Carto. It's a simple little like puzzle narrative game. Essentially, you have the ability, like various games in which you put a tile onto a board game. You put a tile onto the map to create the map, and you have territory and stuff like that, and you have to rotate them. They can only be on certain parts. Essentially, it's that. You have the ability
like Queen's Blood, the sweet TCG in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Is it like, okay, sure. I haven't seen any. I don't know anything about it. The idea is you are Carto, a little girl who got lost, and you have the ability, you have a map, and you have the ability to take pieces of the map and rearrange them, and when you do that, the island you're on changes itself to match the map you created.
People scream, and there's like
that's the funny thing is that nobody ever reacts. There's just like there's in some ways a correct. So like the very first little puzzle is you meet a person, and they say, "My house is to the east of this hill," or whatever. And so all you have to do is take that part of the map and move it to the eastern section next to that hill.
It actually sounds like the map building part of the first Dark Cloud game, which was my favorite.
A little bit, yes. Yeah. Dark Cloud, that I love that mechanic. I should go play Dark Cloud again. But yes, a little bit where it's less specific than that. It's more like a lot of it is also solving puzzles where you need to connect the paths in the right way to get to the right place and stuff like that. But it's real simple. It's real easy. It's really cute. It's also really fun. Like various chapters, you have different like tribes of people that you're interacting with that have kind of a different, one's like the forest dwellers and things like that. And it tells a little story. It's a really simple premise and a really fun game that does not try to be anything more than it is. It's pretty short. I'm halfway through it and I've played like 2 or 3 hours. So it's really fun. And if you like maps like I do, it's a fun game to manipulate the maps and stuff.
That actually sounds like something I would be into. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I've got so much. I'm going to try and go quick with them, though. As far as what we've been playing goes, I mentioned both of them earlier. I've been playing both Balatro and Chance of Sonar. If you don't know Balatro, it is a poker roguelike, is a good way to put it. So you are given 3 blinds, a small, a big, and then a boss blind. And with each one, you are required to earn a certain amount of chips. Cards are worth the amount of chips that the number they are, up to 15 for aces, 10 for face cards. Then hands will give you chips and multipliers. So if you have like a pair, it's 20 times 2, plus whatever the card value is. But then you can get jokers, and jokers will add different modifiers to your hands. You know, if you get a straight, it's plus 100 chips, or multiply your modifier by 3 at the end of whatever else, things like that. And so your goal is to play hands to earn chips, and getting a certain amount of chips defeats the blinds. It should not be this good, and it should not be this addicting.
Yeah.
It sounds like a cool, it's roguelike poker, and it is, and you're not wrong, but it's so good. It does the smart roguelike thing of making you feel so powerful when you get a good run, when you get the great combinations, when you pair the correct jokers. Like I got a run recently where every time I upgraded a hand, a card multiplier went up, but then I also got, whenever I upgrade this specific hand, whatever. So I got this 2 pair up to level 20, which meant that every time it was like 400 chips times 50 or anything like that. But then obviously it was multiplied by 10 because I've been going, like, it was just ridiculous as I was just plowing through this. And it was,
Man, a good roguelike is a very good, like, more dense version of the Skinner box, where you keep trying until you get that god run, and it's just like, you're just like, I am the greatest at video games of all time, and then you beat it and you're like, I can do that again. I'm gonna get that again. I'm gonna keep doing that.
Good. And so just Balatro does a great job of this. I will say that I don't know if I'm good or it's an easier roguelike. In my very first run, as like, you're supposed to get through 8 boss blinds, in my very first run, I got through 7 and died. And then I beat it my second time and my third time, immediately upped the difficulty and got to like 5. But now I went back down to normal just so I can beat it every time and get unlocks. So I don't think I'm just good at it. I think it's just a little bit easier than the average roguelike, but it's still really satisfying and really, really good. I highly recommend Balatro. I've also been playing Chance of Sonar. This one I'll be much shorter on. It's basically a language deduction game. There's a cipher of language in it, and you are going through as a stranger in this world, and a speech bubble pops up. They say, blah, 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 and then they point at something, and then you have a journal in which you can guess what that symbol means. And then as the game progresses, you get things confirmed or figured out, and it is also very satisfying to have people start saying sentences that makes sense because you have deduced what these
you've learned their language. Yeah.
So really, really good game. It's also this really unique story of religious people who want to climb a tower to get God, to see God, but there are now warriors.
To get him.
Get him!
We're going to get him!
There are these warriors that are now blocking them from getting into this place, and you don't know why. You don't know what's going on. So, yeah. All right, that's what I'm playing. Go ahead, go.
Faith and I watched The Lost City. I don't know if you remember this one from 2 years ago, maybe. Sandra Bullock and Sandra Bullock,
and
not
Channing
Bullock.
Tatum.
And Channing Tatum.
Yes.
The simple premise is she plays a romance author, does a lot of like adventure romance books, and Channing Tatum plays the cover model. Plays like the main like, you know, dash something or other, and is on the cover. Yes, on the cover of every single book, and through, you know, a series of hilarious hijinks, basically they find themselves in the middle of an actual adventure that would be in her books, and it was fine. It was, I'd say, above average for this kind of thing. Elevated by Channing Tatum, who is, you know, a funny guy.
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock is also fine. had some funny jokes in there too. I would say it could have been way better. Like it kind of felt a little rushed, and it's just my subjective interpretation. It felt like, well, we've got Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock, and Brad Pitt shows up, and that was a very funny part of the movie.
Okay, spoilers for this movie, which is old, but it's good. I think it's really
It's a
good.
couple years ago.
Brad Pitt comes in, and he's even in the trailer as like
Hold on.
the guy. Yeah, that's fine. I'll just explain what's going on here. So Brad Pitt comes in as the guy who Channing Tatum is jealous of. He's an actual like special forces guy who's coming in to save Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock. And you expect there to be this rivalry throughout the whole movie, but within like, I don't know, 3 minutes of Brad Pitt being there,
it's like 10
minutes.
He's there for it's like a 10-minute scene. I've got to go. Actually, I've got a thing going on.
Okay.
It's great to see everybody. Bye.
Bye, Fox.
Weird leaving. Bye.
Yeah.
I gotta go. Bye.
Bye. Anyway, Brad Pitt gets shot in the head. It's like the only really gory part of the entire movie. He gets shot in the head, and his brain spats out the back, and that's it. It's hilarious. Anyway, it's played really, really well. Okay, I'm gonna hammer through the things that that I have been up to. Then been playing Balatri Tensonar. I read 2 books. Tell Her Story, which I talked about a little bit before. It's a book by Nijay Gupta, about the women in scripture and how they led and taught. It was kind of this whole idea of, there's a lot of people out there who will say, in fact, I'll say probably a majority of Christians who will say that women should not have authority within the church. And so Nijay Gupta decided to write a book about, hey, here are the women who had authority in the Bible and how that went. Here's what I will say about it. It's very good. I really enjoyed the book. I really enjoyed reading it. Some of the minor characters, the side people that Jesus encounters, he extrapolates a lot with. Like, he'll say, like, if this, then this, then this, then this, then this. And so she might have had power in this situation. And it's like, hey, but it's okay if no. Like, it's okay to say no on these points, because like, that's why I was like, that wasn't great for me, because the other side of it is there are very blatant, clear points that he points out. Like the one that I never knew. And his whole point is, hey, these have always been in scripture, but the stories have never been told. You just read over them. They're never preached on. They're never pointed out. You just kind of read past it and don't even think about it. So let's tell her story. Like the big one for me was Deborah the Judge, and this big song that's in scripture about her and about her general that she commanded and how powerful they were together. And it's just this whole section of scripture like, hey, she was in charge of him and they were awesome because of that. And it's like very clear, here's a woman with authority over a man in the Bible. Look, there it is, guys. And so it does that really well. A lot of places like Prisa and Aquila and Phoebe and all these people within scripture that do have clear authority. He tells their story great. He just then goes on to pick out some other people like the woman at the well and the woman caught in adultery, and tries to extrapolate a lot of things from what's going on there. And you're like, hey man, again, it's okay to just say not those ones. Anyway, so that's Tell Her Story. I also read for the first time ever the book The Outsiders. I didn't have to read it in school. My daughter read it for school. She loved it and basically like shoved it into my chest like, you must read this. It's so good. And I read it, and it is so good. It was really, really good. I really enjoyed The Outsiders. It is one where the writing is definitely meant for a 6th, 7th grade, like middle school level, but the content is so heavy and so powerful and sad, but good. And overall, it tells this story about a time in history that we're just not aware of anymore. And read The Outsiders. It's great. It's a book about classism, really, with what's called greasers and socias, the high society social people, and then the greasers, kind of the gangs, the punks, and how they are like literally physically against each other, sometimes violently. There's a murder involved, and it's just, it gets crazy, but really, really good book. Books I've been reading. Finally, things I want to talk about is what I've been watching. Two things. Number one, I watched Poor Things, the Academy Award winning film Poor Things, and I was unimpressed. Legitimately, like, disappointed to say anything. Overall, it is a well-made artistic film. It has some really good things to say, and if I were to actually rate it as try to give it an objective rating, 6.5, 6 out of 10. Without bias, that's about what I'd give it. The problem is, it is graphically sexual constantly throughout the film. In fact, it is a major theme within the film itself that the main character is graphically sexual regularly. And they show this with full nudity of men and women, complete nudity, top to bottom, front and back, very explicit sexual scenes within it as well, and unnecessarily so. As a Christian, as a believer, it was way too far. It was a detriment to the film. As literally as me, with my biased opinion, 2 out of 10, I would never watch that film again. Like, it was not great. But trying to take that bias out of my brain and set that aside and get to a point where I am just considering this as a piece of art, even trying to tell the story. It's about a story, if you don't know, by the way, it's a story about, think of it like Frankenstein, where there's a mother who is pregnant with 9 months pregnant, like ready to give birth, but she commits suicide by jumping off a bridge. And Dr. Frankenstein, essentially, his name's Godfrey. She calls him God, which is definitely a big theme within it. But Dr. Frankenstein, Godfrey, finds her and decides, I have a body and I also have a healthy brain. I'm going to put this toddler's brain inside of this adult woman's body and see how that goes, just as an experiment, and see what happened. And so what it's really a story about is, what if a woman has to learn completely about herself, completely about the world, completely about how the world sees women, but with a toddler brain, and that really genuine, innocent. But why? Why does it have to be this way? Why can't I just enjoy life for what it is? Why can't I, kind of hedonism type of thing? And they do a really good job at some points of portraying, hey, this is why you can't gorge yourself on food. This is why you can't, fill in the blank thing here and there. But man, the film really wanted to focus on sex. Like, really, really did. Again, unnecessarily, even from an artistic standpoint, unnecessarily so, to the point that I get that it won all the awards, right? It won all the awards. I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. It was a pretty good film, I guess, from an unbiased standpoint. From as my personal opinion, it was a bad movie. I did not enjoy it. I will say, number one, though, it was beautiful. It was the colors and the palette and everything was really beautiful, really well made in that way. And Emma Stone was spectacular. She deserved every Best Actress award that she got. She was spectacular in the film. It was just a bad movie. And so that's my Poor Things rant. And then second of all, I watched Renegade Nell on Disney Plus. This is the complete other side of the things, where Poor Things got all of the notoriety, all the awards, and I did not really enjoy it. I found Renegade Nell by accident. Nobody's talking about Renegade Nell, and it is my favorite show in a long time. It was spectacular. Renegade Nell is a show about, it's sort of like Renaissance era England, and a woman runs away, elopes with a man, but you don't see that. You just see her coming back after he died in the war. She comes back to her family and to her world, and for whatever reason, we don't get to know about that, she has a little fairy that when it'll just fly into her ear and then she becomes super strong, super quick, like she gets these superpowers. And it's about her entering this world and having this thing and not knowing why. And she talks to this fairy, and they don't really know why either. And overall, it is this delightful, fun romp, but also talks about classism, talks about having no power because you are poor and not being able to do it. Like her father dies and they're going to lose their house, and she's framed for murder. And so that's why she has to become an outlaw. And that's why she's Renegade Nell, and how she deals with this, and just how much, like, no matter how many superpowers she has, it doesn't stop the fact that she does not have actual power. And so many things just start happening because she has no voice. She has no power. It is so fun. It's so good. Perfectly cast, perfectly acted. Literally, to me, it may not be the greatest show ever made, but it is a perfect show. I cannot recommend Renegade Nell enough. Spectacular, spectacular show. If you have Disney Plus, go watch Renegade Nell. If you don't have Disney Plus, it is absolutely worth $15 for a month of it to watch the 8 episodes of Renegade Nell. Phenomenal TV show. I loved it. I loved it so much. So anyway, hey, that's going to be it for us, guys. We're going to call this a podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Fox is apologizing to me in text right now. He had a plumbing inspector stop by, and so he had to drop out. So sorry that I had to kind of finish the podcast all by myself. Thank you for listening, though. We really appreciate that you guys were here. Reminder that this is all a part of a greater ministry in Save Point Ministries. So what we do is we want to let people in the world know how loved they are by Jesus, how important they are to him, and how he wants nothing more than for them to know him and to be a part of his kingdom. But we also think that the best place to find that out is within a physical community in a local church. And so what we do is we find people called what we call nerd-friendly churches, churches that not only are going to tell you about Jesus and how much he loves you, but also are going to talk to you about Renegade Nell, or if you've been playing Balatro or whatever else. We want to find you a church like that. So if you are somebody who doesn't have a physical church community and would like to find one, hey, you can stop by our website, or if you're here with us on the stream, and you can click that link in the chat, and we'd love to get you connected to a church. One more time, thank you so much for being here, and always remember that saved games save lives.
My voice sings all night, and this is what my heart sounds like. It's what my heart sounds like. It's what my heart sounds.
All right, I'm back. Podcast is officially over. Chat, you guys are great. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to go in here. Hey, Saint Bear, I love talking to you about Nerdy Gritty. Thanks, Star Patron. Yeah, I'm back. Hey, so just kind of jump in here real quick and go through some of the chat here. Saint Bear and I were talking about Nerdy Gritty. He says for what's what I'm looking, not the double entendre to really work here, the pun to really work here, it should be Nerdy Gritty or Nerdy Gritty. It's the Nerdy Gritty. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. But then we nerdy gritty, nudie grooty, nudum grudum. Yeah. Anyway, so the sweet life of nerdy gritty. That's good. So we also talk about emulation, and just that the most emulated games are old ones that you can't buy anymore, or old ones that are on systems that you can't buy anymore, so nobody really cares. And again, legitimately, emulation itself is a tool. This is my opinion now. Emulation itself is a tool. How you use that tool can be used problematically or used just fine. And emulation is a whole thing in and of itself. Save point, Redhead /Child, Jokers and Poker, blasphemy. You don't actually play them in the game itself. Like, they're not wild cards in the game itself. They're the modifiers as you're playing. So the jokers themselves are like hovering up above all the cards, but you can modify the cards. It's a really, guys, play Balatro. Hey, everybody, play Balatro. It's so good. Speaking of so good, Mo's GIF talking about how good Lost City was. Yes, I really enjoyed that movie. Just started Ripley. Ripley, I don't know Ripley. When I hear Ripley, I immediately think Ellen Ripley from Aliens. Ripley. What is is Ripley? It's a thriller. It's a TV series about Tom Ripley. Interesting. I'll have to look that up. I don't know anything about Ripley. Yeah, were I you, I would pass on Poor Things there, Mos Jiff, or anybody really. Oh, Talented Mr. Ripley, that kind of stuff. All right, so Thief, yeah, got it, type of stuff. Okay, cool. So it's a long TV show about the Talented Mr. Ripley. Awesome. Well, chat, yeah, based on the Talented Mr. Ripley. Chat, hey guys, it's been awesome talking to you. Thank you for all being here. Actually, speaking of so good, is anybody been watching Fallout? I watched the first episode of Fallout, and we just one episode in. It's really good. It's really good. It's what you expect of Fallout. So if you can't handle gore, not a great idea, but it takes, obviously, if you don't know Fallout, it's post-apocalyptic world, but it's retro-futuristic. So it's 1950, and then people are really expecting a nuclear war. And so a lot of people get into these massive underground vaults where that's where they're going to live for the rest of forever, is in these vaults, because nuclear war is going to hit on the surface. It does. It hits on the surface, the whole world, apocalypse. Then it's 200 years later, one of these vaults ends up, somebody has to leave. Again, I don't want to spoil anything, so somebody has to leave. And in the games, you are just that person. You make your own character. In the show, it's a woman called Lucy, and she goes to the surface, and it's her finding out that, hey, a decent amount of society of humans survived. So society is just very different now, and figuring out how to survive in this world, but also other stuff going on. It's really good. Watch Fallout. I enjoyed that. So anyway, chat, hey, thank you guys for being here. One more reminder that we are here to help you if you're looking for a church. If you want to follow those links in the chat, we're happy to do that for you. You can also jump into our Discord if you want. We just have daily discussions there, just chatting about all kinds of random stuff, but also talking about, but also there's a channel in there called Find a Church, where you put in your city and state. We delete that so you're not doxxed, and then we immediately just go for there helping find you a nerd-friendly church. So yeah, thanks again for being here, chat. We love that each and every one of you are here today, but always remember that there's a church out there that would love it if you were there. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.